My name is Alara Wynn, 36 years old. The dashboard read 19 degrees the whole drive home, and I checked it 3 times like weather could be bargained with if you looked often enough. I was thinking about pipes and heat tape, and whether the timer on the porch light was still working when my headlights washed across our lawn and caught something that did not make sense. Mia, barefoot, in the thin unicorn pajamas she'd begged for at Target. No coat, no boots. 3 inches of new snow swallowing her ankles. She wasn't crying. She wasn't moving. She was just standing there, staring at our house like she needed permission to exist inside it. I braked so hard my coffee slid and bled into the passenger mat. The car door flung open on its own anger. Mia, I said, already ripping off my coat as I ran. Her lips were blue. Her little body juddered like a wind-up toy gone wrong. I wrapped the coat around her and lifted. She weighed nothing. How long have you been outside? My voice split. Where is Dad? She didn't look at me. When she finally spoke, her voice was the small sound glass makes when it cracks. Mommy said I had to wait outside. I was bad. My blood went cold in a way the air could not manage. Who said that? I asked, though I'd heard it. Who? Mommy, she whispered, and the word didn't fit my mouth anymore. We hadn't called me Mommy in months, not since Caleb started correcting her. Mama when you're with me, Mom when you're with her. Rewriting language to redraw lines. I climbed the porch steps with Mia clutched tight. The front door key turned, but caught on the deadbolt, the kind you can only lock from the inside. I pounded. Open the door, now! Through the frosted sidelight, a shape drifted past. Not rushing, not startled, casual. Mia, I murmured into her hair. I've got you. Don't call them, she said, flinching when I reached for my phone. She said if I told anyone, she'd send me away. To the place where bad kids go. I froze. Who said that? Before she could answer, the lock thunked and the door swung open on warm air that smelled like citrus cleaner and something floral and expensive. Dr. Brenna Thornton stood there in a silk robe, hair perfectly set, lipstick like a decision. Behind her, Caleb, in an open collar shirt, telling the room with his posture that he belonged to it. Oh, Brenna said lightly, you're early. It took a second for my brain to reconcile the tableau. My daughter freezing, my ex-husband in my living room, and his psychiatrist girlfriend greeting me in a robe. Where were you? I demanded. Why is she outside? Brenna's smile didn't reach her eyes. We're addressing behavioral issues. Consequences teach quicker than lectures. The word consequences dropped like a brick. I shifted Mia on my hip, and that's when I saw them. Angry red rings around both wrists, skin abraded in a pattern that told a story. I followed Mia's glance to the maple by the sidewalk. A frayed clothesline dangled from a low branch, cut clean. My stomach lurched. Mia, I said as evenly as I could manage, show me your wrists. She tried to hide them in my coat. Caleb moved closer, palms up, as if we were a negotiation. Ilara, let's not escalate. You've been under a lot of stress. We all have. Stress doesn't tie a child to a tree in a snowstorm, I said. Brenna's chin tipped, curious, clinical. No one tied anyone to anything. She was instructed to stay by the tree until she could be respectful, an hour at most. Mia coughed then, deep and barking, the kind that sounds like it hurts all the way down, and a speckle of red bloomed on her palm. The room tilted. She needs a hospital, I said, now. Children adapt to temperature more than parents think, Brenna replied, already bored. I'm a psychiatrist. I'm quite familiar with somatic presentations. You're not her doctor, I snapped. You're his girlfriend. Brenna stepped aside just enough to let my eyes land on the hall table. A fat legal envelope sat there, lid open like a smirk. In large block letters, termination of parental rights. Underneath, a signature that looked like mine if you squinted through a lie. My heart thudded once, hard. That's not my signature. Of course it is, Brenna said. Last Tuesday, remember? After your outburst. She glanced at Caleb. She has episodes. Caleb wouldn't meet my eyes. Alara, we want what's best for Mia. You're drinking. I haven't had a drink in 3 years. The words came out flat and ironed. Brenna tilted her head, examining my face like a chart. Denial is a hallmark, unfortunately. Mia shivered so violently I felt it in my bones. I pulled my phone. 901, I said aloud, and began to dial. Brenna's smile thinned. Call them then. We'll tell them you violated the protection order, the one you were served this morning. I pressed the phone to my ear. There is no protection order, I told the operator. I'm at 482 Maple Street. My 6-year-old was left outside in 19 degrees for hours. She's hypothermic and coughing blood. There are rope abrasions on both wrists. We need an ambulance and officers on scene. Brenna exhaled through her nose, then turned into the living room, murmuring to Caleb something about handle it like we discussed and everything's in place. The phrases stuck like burrs. The porch light flickered. The ring mount beside the doorbell plate was empty, screws bright and new against scarred siding. I held Mia tighter and stepped across the threshold. The warmth hit us both at once. Her teeth chattered so hard, she bit her lip. Caleb moved as if to take her. I pivoted away. Don't, I said. Far off, sirens began to climb the night like a rope you could almost grab. Brenna's eyes stayed on me, unblinking and calm, the way a snake is calm when it knows the terrarium is locked. In Mia's ear, I whispered, I'm here, you're safe. And into the phone, again, so the recording would have it twice, I said, please hurry. The ambulance painted our street in red and white, a beating heart arriving late. 2 EMTs moved with the certainty of people who have seen too many worst-case scenarios. One slid a thermometer under Mia's tongue. The other palpated her wrists with a gentleness that made my eyes sting. Core's at 92, the first said, voice low. Moderate hypothermia. Get the warming blankets. They clocked the abrasions immediately. Clean, parallel, angry. How long was she outside? The EMT asked without looking up. At least 4 hours, I said. There's a cut clothesline on the maple. Across the room, Brenna folded her arms like she'd ordered a salad, and it arrived with croutons. She's exaggerating. It was an hour. Consequences. Mia coughed. A string of red webbed from her lip to her sleeve. The EMT's expression shuddered. We're transporting. Blue strobes joined red. 2 officers stepped in, Ramirez and a younger partner whose badge I couldn't focus on. Ramirez scanned the room once and seemed to place everything on invisible shelves. Shaking child, frantic mother, 2 calm adults, a hall table with an open envelope like a mouth. Ma'am, Ramirez addressed me. We received a call about child endangerment. Is this your residence? Yes, I said. And no, it's ours. Joint custody. The deadbolt was on from inside. I found my daughter standing on the lawn, barefoot. Officer, Caleb cut in, hand on his chest like a man auditioning for concerned parent. She's emotional. She violated a protection order this morning. She's been unstable. We were just about to call you. Brenna stepped forward with a leather portfolio and the solemnity of a pageant judge. I'm Dr. Brenna Thornton, a board-certified psychiatrist. I've been treating the family, including Mia, for 6 months. The child exhibits oppositional behaviors, fabrications, attention-seeking. Hypothermia can worsen confabulation. She handed Ramirez a thick folder, letterhead, dates, medication lists, progress notes. I reached first, flipping through with freezing hands. Session summaries I'd never seen. Medications I'd never approved. Diagnoses sewn like a costume. Disruptive mood dysregulation. Parent-child relational problem. Caregiver alcohol use. These are fabricated, I said, my voice hoarse with fury. Check with her pediatrician, Dr. Patel at Children's. There's no referral, no notes, nothing legit. Brenna didn't look at me. Denial is not unusual in cases of caregiver abuse. Officer, I said to Ramirez, slower, each word a rail I could hold, please swab Mia's wrists. There will be fibers matching the rope on the tree. Also, our doorbell camera was removed. Today, I think. The screws are fresh. If you can retrieve the cloud footage. There is no camera, Caleb snapped. She broke it last week in one of her rages. I began, but Brenna slid her gaze to the younger officer. He keeps a firearm under the driver's seat, she said. Regret poured over gasoline. Given his volatility, I'd recommend you secure it. I don't own a gun, I said. Never have. The younger officer stepped back outside. The EMTs lifted Mia, burritoed in silver and fleece. Mommy, she whispered, reflex more than meaning. Then she corrected herself through chattering teeth. Mama. Her hand reached for me, and I touched her forehead. I'm right behind you, I promised. Ramirez was still reading. The pages in his hands looked damning when held by a uniform. Ma'am, he said carefully, I'll need you to stay available for questioning. Brenna put a trembling fingertip to her cheekbone where makeup darkened nothing. You should also see this, she told Ramirez, angling her face. She hit me, last night, right in front of Mia. I wasn't here last night, I said. I was at a site visit in Albany until 11, then at the Mill Pike Hotel. There's badge logs, receipts, camera. The younger officer re-entered, a Glock in an evidence bag. Found it under the seat, he said, and the room lurched like a dropped elevator. That's not mine, I said, the words small and ridiculous next to polymer and steel. Someone planted that. Ma'am, Ramirez said, a weary apology in his tone I didn't want, I'm going to ask you to turn around. I am begging you, I said, hands open, heart wild. Check the tree, swab the rope, call Dr. Patel, pull the neighborhood cams. The timeline will save my daughter and me. The cuffs were cold and too tight. As the EMTs wheeled Mia past, she craned her neck. Mama, she called, eyes blown wide. Don't let them. I'm coming to the hospital, I said, voice breaking. I promise. At the station, the interrogation room was beige, humming, and designed to make truth feel optional. An officer slid a tablet across the table and pressed play. Grainy footage from a gun store, a figure my height and build, hat brim low, sunglasses, filling out a form. 2 weeks ago, the officer said, receipts in your name. I was in Albany, I said, fighting to breathe evenly. Pull the thruway tolls, the hotel log, the client sign in. You will see my name 17 times in other places. He shrugged. People drive fast. Tamsin Cho arrived like oxygen, compact, precise, pre-angered on my behalf. No questions until I confer with my client, she said, sliding into the chair. After the door closed, she looked me over like triage. Tell me everything, top down, no self-editing. I poured it out. The deadbolt, the legal envelope, Brenna's folder, the empty ring mount, the Glock, the EMT's numbers, Mia's blood on her hand. Tamsin typed like a court reporter. Protection order? She asked. Did you get served? No, I said, nothing legitimate. She drummed a pen. Okay, we'll file immediate requests. Pediatric records from Patel, ring cloud retrieval, a subpoena for all medical prescribers linked to Mia's name, and we'll chew the gun shop's cameras until they cough up a face. My phone buzzed on the table. They'd allowed it on silent under supervision. Children's Medical. I answered on speaker. A nurse's voice, professional and tight. Ms. Wynn, this is Jenna in PICU. Mia's labs came back. She has low-dose antipsychotics in her system, consistent with ongoing administration over several weeks. Tamsin's pen stopped moving. I closed my eyes for one beat and opened them into a world colder than the one outside. Thank you, I said. Please keep her safe. We will, Jenna said. Oh, and social work has already contacted CPS. They'll want to speak with you. The call clicked off. Another arrived immediately. Unknown number. I didn't mean to answer, but my thumb did. A filtered voice, metallic and calm. Drop the custody fight or the next accident will be real. A photo arrived a second later. Mia's hospital window, shot from outside at night. 4th floor. Tamsin's hand was already out. I passed the phone. She took screenshots, forwarded, typed. We loop Ramirez and hospital security now, she said, and we get your daughter a guard. I stared at the photo. You could see my outline in the glass, a blurry guardian animal watching. I didn't feel like a guardian. I felt like a match trying to warm a house. Tamsin touched my forearm. Brief, human, the smallest defiance of distance. Alara, she said. They built a story. We're going to replace it with facts. I nodded because nodding was easier than crying. Outside the room, a copier whined. Somewhere, a door slammed. I imagined Brenna back at my house, moving around my kitchen, making notes on a pad about me. Get me to Mia, I said, now. Tamsin stood. Bail hearing, then hospital. And Alara, bring your paper trail. Tonight, the truth starts working. The courtroom was half empty that morning, but the air felt thick with electricity. Every rustle of paper, every cleared throat echoed. The emergency custody hearing had been fast-tracked after the hospital's report, but nothing about it felt fast enough. I sat beside my lawyer, Tamsin, fingers laced so tightly they ached. Across the aisle, Caleb looked crisp and controlled in the same tailored navy suit he used to wear to court back when we were married. He had always known how to dress for credibility. Beside him sat Dr. Brenna Thornton, sleek and confident in a gray suit that matched her eyes. She didn't look at me. She didn't have to. The bailiff called for order. The judge, a woman with the sharp, unimpressed patience of someone who'd heard too many lies, glanced at the docket. This is an emergency motion for custody of minor child Mia Wynn Patterson. Let's proceed. Caleb's attorney stood first. Your Honor, my client seeks sole custody on the grounds that Ms. Wynn is emotionally unstable, suffers from alcoholism, and has displayed violent tendencies toward both Mr. Patterson and the child. We have sworn statements and medical documentation to that effect. He handed the judge a folder, the same one Brenna had shown the police. Tamsin leaned over to me. Breathe, just breathe. The judge flipped through the papers, then raised a brow. Ms. Wynn, do you have a response? Tamsin stood. We do, Your Honor. The documentation presented is fraudulent. We have the pediatrician's testimony, hospital toxicology reports, and corroborating statements from emergency personnel indicating deliberate endangerment by Mr. Patterson and Dr. Thornton. The judge's gaze sharpened. Proceed. The first witness was Dr. Patel, Mia's pediatrician. He spoke calmly, methodically. Mia has never been referred to psychiatric care. She has no record of behavioral issues, and I never authorized medication of any kind beyond antibiotics for a mild infection last year. Caleb's lawyer tried to interrupt. But these records... Dr. Patel shook his head. Forged. None of this came from my office. And the listed medications would require controlled substance prescriptions. There are no DEA records of those being dispensed. Murmurs rippled through the gallery. Next came the hospital staff. The EMT described the rope burns, the early frostbite, the timeline that contradicted Brenna's 1-hour punishment. She was outside for at least 4 hours, the EMT testified. Her core temperature and skin damage confirm it. The burns were consistent with restraint, not play. Brenna's composure cracked for the first time. A muscle jumped in her jaw. Then Tamsin called me to the stand. My throat was dry, but my voice stayed even. I found my daughter barefoot in the snow. The deadbolt was locked from the inside. When I confronted my ex-husband and Dr. Thornton, they dismissed it as discipline. I called 911 because Mia's lips were blue and she was coughing blood. Tamsin nodded. Ms. Wynn, were you under the influence that evening? No, I said. I haven't had a drink in 3 years. Do you have proof? Yes. Court-mandated sobriety reports from my recovery program, routine testing for work, and witness statements from my AA sponsor. Tamsin submitted them. Your Honor, opposing counsel's entire narrative collapses under basic verification. Caleb's lawyer looked rattled, but Brenna signaled for him to stay quiet. Then came the surprise witness, Caleb's assistant, Rebecca. Her hands shook as she adjusted the microphone. I worked for Mr. Patterson for 4 years. I used to admire him, but the last few months I heard things I couldn't ignore. What kind of things? Tamsin asked. Plans, she said. They talked about buying a gun under someone else's name, about staging incidents that would make Alara look unstable. Dr. Thornton said, the accident needs to look serious but survivable, just enough for the trauma to discredit her testimony. Caleb's face drained of color. Rebecca, stop. She didn't. I recorded some of it. I didn't know what to do, but when I saw the news about Mia, I gave everything to Ms. Cho. Tamsin pressed play. Brenna's voice filled the courtroom, smooth and unhurried. The gun purchase is set for next week. Make sure she's out of town. I'll prepare the psychiatric forms. Hypothermia looks accidental if handled right. Then Caleb's voice, low and irritable. And what about her boyfriend, the one she's seeing now? Brenna laughed in the recording, a cold sound. Noah, he won't be a problem. I know how he thinks. The name hit like a live wire. Noah, my boyfriend, the one person who'd kept me sane through this storm. A murmur rolled through the room. My heart hammered. Brenna's eyes flicked toward me, and for the first time, I saw something in them that wasn't control. It was recognition. She knew I'd just realized who she used to be to him. The judge's gavel struck once. That's enough. Her tone was ice. Officers, detain Mr. Patterson and Dr. Thornton pending criminal charges. Caleb surged to his feet. You can't. I can, the judge said, and I will. Attempted murder, fraud, child endangerment, conspiracy. We'll let the DA sort the rest. Brenna's calm fractured entirely. You don't understand, she hissed. It wasn't supposed to go this far. The bailiff cuffed her before she could say more. I sat frozen, every muscle locked between relief and disbelief. The judge looked directly at me. Ms. Wynn, temporary full custody is granted pending the criminal investigation. Your daughter will remain under protective supervision at Children's Medical until discharge. The gavel came down again. It was over, at least the first part. When I stepped outside the courthouse, the January air burned my lungs. Reporters shouted questions. Flashes went off. Voices merged into static. I ignored them all and looked up at the snow drifting through the gray light. For the first time in months, the cold didn't scare me. Because this time, the truth was starting to thaw. That night, I sat by Mia's hospital bed, watching the rhythm of her breathing rise and fall beneath layers of warming blankets. The machines hummed softly, steady as a heartbeat I could finally trust. She was still pale, still fragile, but her hands, those small, rope-burned hands, rested peacefully now, curled around her stuffed rabbit. Every few minutes she'd murmur something in her sleep, fragments of dreams that sounded like questions she hadn't dared to ask while awake. I brushed her hair off her forehead. "You're safe now," I whispered. "Mama's got you." The nurse came in quietly. "She's improving," she said. "Temperature's normal, vitals stable. She's a strong kid." I smiled faintly. She had to be. When the nurse left, I sat back, exhaustion finally catching up to me. I hadn't slept properly in days, but my mind refused to rest. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Brenna's calm, perfect smile, her voice on that recording. "Noah won't be a problem. I know how he thinks." Noah. He'd texted all day, asking if I was okay, if Mia was okay, if he could come to the hospital. I hadn't answered. I wasn't ready. But around midnight, I stepped into the hallway and called him. He picked up on the first ring. "Alara? Thank God. I've been losing my mind." "She's safe," I said. "Mia's safe." He exhaled hard. "Good. That's good. I saw the news alerts. They said Caleb and Brenna." He hesitated on the name. "I didn't even realize." "Did you date her?" I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. There was a pause. "A long time ago," he said quietly. "Before you. She worked at the hospital I was consulting for. It ended badly. She was obsessive, controlling. I didn't think I'd ever see her again." I closed my eyes. "She said she knew how you think." "She does," he admitted, "because she studied people like puzzles she could solve. She told me once she only loved what she could fix." "And what about what she couldn't?" "She destroyed it." I let the silence stretch. "You should know she used you," I said finally. "Your name, your habits, your schedule. It gave her credibility when she planned everything with Caleb. She made it sound like she still had insight into your life." He swore softly. "Ilara, I'm so sorry." "I know," I said. "Just give me time. I'll wait as long as it takes." When I hung up, I stood there in the quiet corridor, staring at the city lights through the window. Snowflakes drifted against the glass, melting instantly. Time. That's what I needed most now. Over the next few weeks, the investigation unfolded like a terrible novel written in evidence and timestamps. Detectives traced emails, insurance forms, bank transfers. They found the missing doorbell camera in Caleb's office drawer, footage intact. It showed everything. Mia tied to the tree, Brenna standing over her, Caleb watching from the doorway. When they confronted them, Caleb tried to pin it all on Brenna, said she'd manipulated him. Brenna laughed in the interrogation video, cold and hollow. "He was easy," she said. "Men who think they're smarter than women always are." The district attorney's office called me in for a deposition. Sitting there beneath the hum of fluorescent lights, I gave them everything, every message, every recording, every detail that proved they hadn't just lost control, they'd planned this for months. At one point, the investigator leaned forward and asked, "Why do you think she did it? Why go that far?" I thought about it. "Control," I said. "She wanted to play God, and Caleb wanted to win. They just used each other until it fell apart." The DA nodded grimly. "That's consistent with what we're seeing. There's more than greed here. There's pathology." The trial began 2 months later. The courtroom was packed this time. Reporters, onlookers, even people who just wanted to glimpse the kind of evil they'd read about online. Brenna arrived in handcuffs, immaculate as ever, her expression unreadable. Caleb looked smaller somehow, his confidence stripped away, hair gone gray at the temples. I didn't sit in the front row. I sat 3 rows back, where Mia couldn't see them if she glanced around. The prosecutors played the recordings, displayed the photos, walked the jury through every lie. The forged psychiatric records, the fake gun purchase, the insurance policy, the text threats. Each piece fit perfectly until the whole picture was undeniable. Brenna's defense attorney argued she'd been manipulated by Caleb. Caleb's attorney argued the opposite. Watching them turn on each other was almost biblical. When the verdict came, it was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced Brenna to 30 years, her medical license permanently revoked, and Caleb to 25 without parole for 15. As they were let out, Caleb looked back at me. "I loved her, Ilara," he said. "You know that, right? I loved you both." I didn't answer. There are some lies that no longer deserve correction. Afterward, I took Mia home, our home. I sold the old house, the one with the maple tree, and found a small craftsman on the other side of town. There was a garden, sunlight in every room, and no ghosts. The first morning there, Mia woke early and climbed into bed beside me. "Is this forever?" she asked, her voice muffled against my shoulder. "As long as you want it to be," I said. She thought for a moment, then yes. Months passed. The nightmares faded. She started school again, joined a soccer team, made new friends. Every day she healed a little more. Sometimes, though, she'd pause by the window when it snowed. I'd watch her, afraid she might slip back into that memory. But she always smiled and said softly, "It's just snow now, Mama. It can't hurt me." And she was right. One evening, while she slept, I sat at my desk finishing my victim impact statement for the sentencing review. I wrote about what they'd taken from us, our peace, our trust, our ability to believe safety wasn't temporary. But I also wrote about what they hadn't taken, our bond, our truth, our capacity to rebuild. When I finished, I looked at the framed photo on my desk, Mia laughing, missing teeth, eyes bright, and whispered, "We made it." Outside, snow fell again, soft and soundless. This time, I didn't flinch. I just closed my laptop, turned off the light, and went to tuck my daughter in. Because the cold had never been the enemy. The danger had always been the ones who called it love. And that danger was gone.